夫係點㗎？
梗係記得。第一招，檢查牆身天花梁柱。
第二招，妥善保養窗戶。
第三招，檢查並維修渠管。
仲有啊，唔好僭建，有機話就立即清拆。
定期檢驗同維修自己嘅物業，
咁就安居無憂啦。
Hello and welcome to the Financial Report. I'm Hailing Chan. The local stock market was sluggish today. It ended flat. The Hang Seng Index finished 30 points up at 22,044. Trading volume was $53 billion. Shares in mainland insurers slid on concerns that payouts for Saturday's earthquake in Sichuan province could hit profit margins. Now let's have a look at today's most active stocks. iShares A50 was 4 cents down. The Bank of China lost 2 cents. China Mobile gained 45 cents. CCB traded 2 cents lower, and Great Wall Motor was $4.40 up. China Unicom gained 44 cents. Sunhongay $2.10 up. CNOOC gained 6 cents. 10 cents traded up by $2, and ICBC lost 1 cent. Now for a look at Hong Kong dollar exchange rates. 7.76 to the US dollar, 11.82 to the British pound, 7.78 to 100 Japanese yen, 10.12 to the euro, and 100 Hong Kong dollars is 79 renminbi. In early European trade, the London FTSE is up by nearly 39 points at 6,325. London gold's buying price is $1,436.56 US dollars an ounce, asking at $1,437.33 an ounce. Now over in Frankfurt, the DAX is up by 66 points at 7,526. And in Paris, the CAC is trading 22 points higher at 3,674. That's today's financial report. Join me for the main news after the break.
Coming up, main news and weather report.
With sunshine and water, there'll be Chinese people. Our crew travelled all over the world to find these brave souls who have gone through the toughest time to settle in foreign lands. They did the impossible, and we make sure their stories will be heard. Stories from Afar, tonight at 8:30. A ticket to the beginning of her story. She has a choice, to forget her past, or to face the unbearable truth. But only one of them can set her free. ATV World Spectacular. Ticket, tonight at 9.
International affairs that concern all of us. Comprehensive research and thorough reports on the most pressing issues. Let's focus on the events that truly matter. Check in current news in focus. Tuesday night at 8. Current events. Controversial issues. In-depth accounts of the latest news and happenings that impact us all. Get to the heart of the matter. Get real with Inside Story, Tuesday night at 6:55. What happens out there is real. Get the latest European news and current affairs. Whatever happens, when it happens, you're always the first to know. Check in current news. European Journal, tonight at 8.
Good evening, you're watching the main news on ATV. I'm Belinda Lloyd.
And I'm Hailing Chan. Here are tonight's top stories.
Survivors of deadly Sichuan earthquake complain that government not doing enough to ease their plight.
Former development chief Mak Chai Kwong and co-defendant in court on first day of corruption trial.
Striking dockers clash with police during march to government headquarters as pay dispute drags on. 2 days after China's worst earthquake in 3 years, survivors of the Sichuan disaster are complaining that the government isn't giving them enough food and clean water to cope.
The death toll from the earthquake now stands at nearly 190, with dozens still missing and almost 20,000 trying to recover from their injuries. People in areas hardest hit by Saturday's earthquake in Sichuan are getting used to seeing soldiers on the streets as they try to recover from the worst tremor to hit the country in 3 years. The powerful quake killed scores of people, and those lucky enough to still be alive are counting their blessings. These residents are fortunate to have a roof over their heads. Some are being given emergency relief supplies like food and clean water, but not everyone is so lucky. Villagers of Ya'an City made homeless by the earthquake are complaining that the government hasn't been doing enough to help them. Angry that official relief efforts are too slow, they say that even if they get supplies, they're barely enough to feed the children, let alone everyone else. The problem has caused long queues as emergency workers hand out food, and squabbles among villagers are now a common sight. To try to reach villages as quickly as possible, emergency workers have been traveling around in helicopters instead of on roads blocked by debris. This is particularly important for medical teams carrying out emergency surgery on those who need it the most. But it's not easy. Difficult weather conditions, including turbulence as well as heavy pollution, have added to the urgency of workers trying to navigate the mountainous terrain. But there's some good news for residents struggling to survive. Teams of workers have cleared a major highway blocked by huge boulders during the quake, and traffic can now pass through. The motorway connecting an isolated county to another one means that relief supplies can be transported to the area populated by 58,000 people. However, water, electricity, and gas supplies will take some time to restore. The silver lining to the earthquake is that it's brought the people of Sichuan together. Baby Liu Yunchao's mother died in the quake, and the grandmother is the only other family member still alive. Liu hasn't had any milk since the disaster, but today a complete stranger came to the rescue. Young Junhui, who gave birth to a child of her own 11 months ago, offered to feed Liu. Also, a mass blood drive is being held in Sichuan and neighboring provinces to treat the injured with. Nearly 90,000 millimeters of blood was donated by soldiers of a garrison force in Chongqing alone, with residents of cities and villages queuing up for their turn, overcrowding stations. Opening hours at some had to be extended to cope with the sheer number of donors. The Hong Kong government is proposing to donate $100 million to help victims of the Sichuan earthquake.
But it will have to get approval from LegCo's Finance Committee first. ATV's Bo Leung reports.
As earthquake survivors in Sichuan struggle to cope after their nightmare, the Hong Kong government is asking LegCo to inject $100 million into the Disaster Relief Fund to help the victims. Chief Secretary Carrie Lam will be coordinating Hong Kong's relief efforts. She said while people in the city are concerned about the welfare of the quake survivors, the government will ensure that Hong Kong's donation will be well spent. LegCo's Finance Committee will first have to approve the request for funds and will discuss the issue on Wednesday. But Democratic Party Chairwoman Emily Lau questioned why the administration is rushing with the proposed donation. She also urged the government to provide documents on similar donations to see how funds are monitored and used. Lau extended her sympathy for the victims, but said the mainland isn't lacking money, so she hopes the authorities there can speed up rescue efforts. But Oxfam Hong Kong said it's a challenge to get supplies to affected areas.
The difficulties we are facing in this relief response is the transportation of the relief materials. The roads are damaged by the earthquake, and the road is also regulated by the government to give priority to the rescue teams.
After the massive earthquake that ravaged Sichuan 5 years ago, killing 88,000 people, Hong Kong donated $10 billion to the province. Bo Leung, ATV News.
The corruption trial of former Development Secretary Mak Chai-kwong began at the District Court today.
Mak and his co-defendant have been accused of defrauding the government of around $700,000 in housing allowances. Former Development Secretary Mak Chai-kwong put on a brave face when he showed up at District Court this morning for the first day of his trial. He stands accused, together with Assistant Highways Director Zhang Kin-man, of cheating the government of more than $700,000 in housing allowances in the 1980s. Mak and Zhang bought flats in the same block at City Garden in North Point in 1985 and then leased each other's homes the following year, allowing them to claim government housing allowances on the rent, a practice known as cross-leasing. Documents from the prosecution side state that if the pair had resided in their own premises, they would not have received the rent allowances in the first place. In 1990, the two men allegedly authorized each other to sell the flats. Prosecutors also revealed today that shortly after the scandal was exposed by the media in July last year, Mak bought a new SIM card which he used to get in touch with Zhang. Mak had admitted this to the ICAC but denied he had done so in order to pass a confidential message to Zhang. Both men pleaded not guilty to 6 charges, including conspiracy to defraud and using documents with intent to deceive the government. Their trial is expected to last 12 days and a total of 15 witnesses will testify. Mak's tenure as minister is the shortest in Hong Kong's post-colonial history. He lasted only 12 days as development chief before he was forced to resign after the ICAC arrested him. Labour Secretary Matthew Cheung has met striking dock workers for the first time since they walked off the job nearly 4 weeks ago.
The talks came as hundreds of strikers marched from their makeshift camp outside Cheung Kong Centre to the government headquarters at Tamar. ATV's Emily Sue reports.
There was a clash with police this afternoon when about 200 strikers marched from Cheung Kong Centre in Central, where they have been protesting, to Tamar, demanding to meet Labour Secretary Matthew Cheung. Police had to close off several lanes temporarily to allow the protesters to reach the government's headquarters, where they called on Cheung to come out and talk to them. Police have not ruled out action against the strikers for not giving officers advance notice of the route of their march. After the protest, the union organizing the strike gave the dockers $1,500 each to cover their living expenses. It was the 6th cash handout since the strike began 26 days ago. The money came from public donations, which have reached $6 million. Meanwhile, port operator Hong Kong International Terminals and the contractors that hire the dockers sent 3 non-striking workers to meet the press. The workers employed by Everbest Port Services and Lem Wing Transportation say the strikers exaggerated their complaints.